Well, greetings. Thanks for joining me. This is my first video in this series where I'm talking about magical tools. And the first tool I'm going to be talking about is the magical wand. Now, maybe you've been following me for a long time and you've seen a video I created a few years ago where I am sharing how I actually made this very pagan magical wand, and really I use it for healing these days. But if you wanted to make a wand like this, you can jump over to that video. I won't be sharing with you how to make a wand in this video. Instead, today what we'll be doing is talking about the purpose of a wand based on various different traditions. I'll also be giving you a little bit of background on how I use a magical wand, and then share with you how you can perhaps use a magical wand. So we'll get a little bit practical. And also I have a couple of different wands to share with you. So hopefully by the end of this video, you might be inspired to actually begin to use the wand that perhaps you have in your toolkit if you're not doing so already, or perhaps feel comfortable to actually use a magic wand in your current rituals without feeling like, you don't have a purpose. So let's get started. So let's have a look. So when we're thinking about a magical wand, the standard wand, what is this? Is this a piece of wood, right? It's a piece of wood with a symbol on it. And basically it's just another tool in my witchy toolkit. And if I say abracadabra and point it at you, I don't expect that you're going to implode, win $1 million, or be healthy to the day you die. It doesn't work like that. A magical wand is actually a magical connection between you, the universe, or the spiritual world, and this implement. So it's a connection of all three that through basically years of use, consecration, belief, understanding of its purpose and its materials, you can become very effective at moving energy from above into your vessel and then out through the point, the end of your magical wand. Now, before we get started, I really wanted to give some homage to our ancestors who basically gave us this tool. It didn't crack out of the Harry Potter egg. So let's spend a minute or two talking about the wand's history. Some would argue that the origins of the magic wand belong to the shamans. Now, shamanism is a belief that everything is living and everything has a spirit. And the idea of shamanic rituals are to link between our plane and the higher planes of existence. Many modern shamanic and esoteric practices include the use of a ritual wand. Here the wand is an instrument of invocation of the spirits and serves primarily to direct the spiritual energy. In Magic Egypt, a magic wand was left in the tomb for the ka, or the soul, to use. The Greek god Hermes is depicted with a caduceus, which is a winged wand or a staff with two snakes curled around it. Continuing on with the idea of the staff was Moses, who was also known to have a hazel wand. In ceremonial magic, including the Golden Dawn, who has several different varieties of wands, including the fire wand and the lotus wand. Other more modern traditions, including Wicca, have a variety of wands, and we'll be touching on some of those in this video, including other wands that you may use if you don't have a classification or belong to a religious system. Now let's talk about something controversial. Let's talk about which element does the wand represent. Is it the element of air or is it the element of fire? Now why does it matter? Well, it doesn't if you don't work with the elements, but if you do, you'll probably be wondering, okay, this is a tool on my altar, where does it sit? Now, interesting enough, most people will look at the wand being of the element of fire, but when I set up my altar, To me, the wand is still the element of air. Now, I'm not saying that you have to follow what I'm doing. I think you have to look into it. But my logic is this. Now, the wand represents the male energy. We're thinking about it as the phallus. And like the knife, the blade, atame, both of these tools are used in different systems, but the idea is that it penetrates the goddess, which is represented in the chalice. The god, the phallus being the assertive force, the female, the goddess, being the receptive force, and when they join together, we have life once more. That's the kind of idea. So don't get caught up on the literal act of what it's about. Think about just the symbology. It's a god and goddess and creation of new life as the wheel goes around. And if there's one thing we do agree on, that is the atame, the knife, the dagger, represents the element of air, always. No one's debating that. And so because in paganism, both of these tools can be used for the same concept, if you want, that's why I put the wand in the element of air. And on when I'm setting up my pagan altar, I actually sit my wand in the position of the element of air. In my element of fire, guess what I put there? I put the candle, because that to me represents fire. So that's something that you're going to have to make up your own mind about. Now on the left-hand path, really, especially in Satanism, there's actually no use of a magical wand. In fact, many Satanists have written, or people on the left-hand path have written, there is no use for a magic wand in ritual. And that's fine, and it's a fair point. If you don't need it, why would you have it? Unless you like the look of it. So some of them actually say, or they compare it with what they call a blasting rod. Now, a blasting rod is a very different tool. Now, the Grand Grimoire describes a blasting rod as basically a wand. So this is the misconception. But this wand has a forked end and it has metal ends to it. Now, a blasting rod, it is said in the Grand Grimoire, it said that this blasting rod is able to control the demons, give you as a magician control over them. And hence why, because we love working with our ancient gods and goddesses, yeah, we look at it as very disrespectful to try and bind or control any of the spirits. And I agree with that, because we're asking these spirits for help in one way or another, and then the idea of to try and bind them, to manipulate them to do something, or we'll torture them, it doesn't sit right with us. It's quite hypocritical that people, and not hating on people, but who practice ceremonial magic, who are considered on the lighter side, find this practice okay just because they're judging our ancient gods as more negative or baneful spirits. They just want what they're going to get out of them, and basically use control and trying to enslave them. But a blasting rod is very different from a wand. And no, we don't use that. In Satanism, they don't use that. It's just not a tool in their toolkit. So just write that off. Now, in Luciferian rituals, they really don't talk a lot about how to use it. There's a couple of descriptions about which element it represents, but most of the rituals, you're not going to actually use that specific tool. Now, Aleister Crowley would also use wands in his rituals. You may know that he had a cast iron type of rod, so a metal rod, which is very good at conducting certain energies. And also, I think it was like an almond rod that he had, a lighter wooden wand that he would use in his rituals. But a lot of his rituals, especially at that time, were based around ceremonial magic. This is when a lot of authors were looking at some of the older grimoires and rewriting some of the materials, but a lot of the rituals sort of mimic some of the old grimoires, they're just chopping and changing them slightly, making them darker, summoning different types of spirits. But it's still very much so the idea of controlling or binding that spirit with the wand and with the tools. And I personally, as I said, I don't do anything like that with my wand. So, what do we do with a wand in modern witchcraft? Well, quite simply, we have to think about the purpose of the wand. What do we do with this piece of wood? Quite simply, you're holding the wand, you're visualizing the energy from wherever you're getting it from to enter the wand, and then you're visualizing it moving through the wand and out the other end. So if you're great at conducting the energy already, well, then that's great. All you're doing is using this as a tool. Instead of your finger, perhaps, you're using your wand to direct that energy and force outside of the wand. The more you use the wand, imagine that, the more you're charging the wand. To teach this years ago, I would talk about a universal source of all energy. So if you think about the universe and how it was created, it was basically a big bang. So all of us are all made of minerals, right? Different types of minerals. And all of the minerals out there in space, the dark matter, all of that energy going around, it exists. We are living in this energetic world. And what you're doing is calling out from up above to receive some of that energy. And that's why a lot of times, I'm going to demonstrate this later for you, but you're drawing the energy down into the vessel. So you're charging the vessel, you're charging yourself, but you're charging this vessel with that energy, and then you're directing that energy out to the target or to whatever you want it to go to. It does take, this is now a relationship. Your wand and you should be now life partners. This is why people had maybe one or two wands across their lifetime. But the more you use it, the more you feel comfortable with it, the more that you believe that you believe in your own power, and then you understand that the tool is conducting that energy. And this is why every single wand is quite personal. How do I use my wand? I noticed not many videos actually teach you how to use a wand, so I wanted to focus this video on that specifically. Well, for me, let me break out some of my wands and I can talk to you about practically how I'm using them. So the first wand that I use is my ebony wands. I love ebony wands. Well, ebony is quite renowned for the darker arts. So when you think about Hecate or the dark moon or Pluto or Hades, any of the more aggressive gods, we're thinking about a wand that we can use, or the ebony wood, very strong, solid, dark in color, quite powerful, enduring. And when you think about those qualities of the wood and then consider, okay, am I comfortable with those qualities? What this wand can deliver to me when I'm using it in spells is I use it for spells such as domination, penetrating to the core of any problem, control, sexual aggression, assertion, something where I'm commanding. So when we're thinking about banishing rituals or something like that, throwing down some of the black magic spells, this is where I really want to slash through problems and command things. This is the ebony wood for me. So you might be thinking, yes, this is exactly what I want. I want a wand that does that for me. It doesn't do it for you. What this does, it's a vessel for you to call down the energy from wherever you're getting it from. It goes into your mind and you feel like you deserve this energy. This is exactly what you're comfortable delivering, and you force it out the other end. So even then I just felt a charge go through my body, because I truly believe that if I'm about to take control or dominate an issue, I believe that it's exactly what needs to be done, and I believe that I have the power to do it. So sometimes you need to work on your shadow side for a long period of time before you can use an ebony wand. But do you see what I mean when it comes to considering the characteristics of the wand and matching them up to what you want to do? So my goal here is to inspire you to take the time and do the research on all the specific types of wood, because every type of wood has its own energy. And it's not about being a badass when it comes to having the toughest wand in the world. It's about having the right wand that's suitable energetically for you, so you and it can work in harmony. And then, of course, as I'm going to show you, there's lots of different things you can add inside the wand to give it a little bit more oomph and to personalize it. Now, of course, there's not just only wooden wands, there's crystal wands, there's metal wands. And here you see Blonde Gypsy's extensive range of crystal wands. And most of the times these are used in healing type of work and love type spells. But once again, I'm not going to focus on describing all of the various types here. So let me go back to what I use this for, this ebony wand. And I took some notes so I can stay focused. As you can see, this wand is an Astaroth wand. It's a very special, very sacred wand for me. I've had it for many, many years. This wand I use not only for spell casting, left-hand path type dark spells, but also rituals. So if I do have to do a ritual where I'm opening up a circle or calling the quarters, calling my ancient spirits or demons to each of the quarters, if I'm directing energy, this is how I use this type of wand. Now, another type of ebony wand you will probably see floating around the internet quite a lot is the ebony wands that you use for ceremonial magic or for drawing spirits into crystals, or some of the more goetic or grimoire style rituals where doing a lot of preparation for months, if not a year in advance. There's a lot of tools that are required. There's a lot of personal preparation required before you even create the tool. Once you create all of those tools, you are to wrap them up in a very special way, pack them away, and only bring them out when you're about to do the ritual. But essentially, you know, if you're not going to be watching this video if you're needing to do that, or maybe I'm going to inspire you to look at that if that's really what you're trying to do. But it is quite expensive, and you've got to, it's a dedication all into itself. It's really heavy work, but that's, if you look up drawing spirits into crystals or anything like that, you can see the preparation that's required to use that wand. But even still, when you get into doing the ritual, you'll be quite surprised that really you're not using the wand a whole lot. In those type of rituals, really, it's almost like the spirit is testing you by giving you all of these arduous tasks to do beforehand before you actually set up the ritual space and go to summon the crystal, the spirit into the crystal in front of you or into the magic mirror. And the usage of the tools is almost unimportant by that stage. I just wanted to share that with you because on the internet and where you look for pictures of wands, you do see all of these little very pompous looking people, especially the old school photos, holding the wand at the demon. And really that's about all you're going to do with the wand. Really, it's meant to control the demon when it comes to it if you have to. So that's kind of the idea with that type of ebony wand. But normally it's an ebony or a hazel wand that you're using for those types of rituals. Now, you might say, well, Savannah, what type of ebony wand can I get? Because I want to be a black witch too. This is another type of ebony wand that I really thought was super cool. We don't sell these wands. It was actually by a wand maker who's an expert wood maker. Wood Wands, I think they're called. The creator tells me that it was made specifically for the purposes of dark magic, hence why I think this one came to me. So it does feel like a very powerful wand. It's sturdy, it's sleek, it's sophisticated. It does look masculine. It looks assertive. Really like that energy, like when I'm stepping into a magical space and I'm about to ask for something, that you really have to be quite forceful on asking that. You want a tool with you that's going to support that desire or that goal. Now, if you have watched the Harry Potter series, you would know that all of the wands have these hidden chambers, right? And in the hidden chambers, they had everything from, I don't know, was it unicorn tears and I forget, all of these really bizarre type of objects that went in there, some of them stronger than others. I can't remember what. But the idea of this magical chamber is for you to put something in there that will add to the energy of the wand. So whether it's a herb, whether it's a crystal, whether it's a petition, definitely you should put in a few drops of your own blood to consecrate it. But then when you seal this up, this is extra energy and power into your lifelong friend, this new vessel that you have to conduct the energy. Okay, so let me show you how you can actually use your magical wand in almost your everyday life if you desire. Now, I don't use it every single day, but if I'm traveling or if I've gone into a space such as a resting area and I want to just carve out a magical little space for me to be able to exit the mundane world and create a magical space so I can connect to spirit or have a cleansed space where I don't have other people's toxic energy entering, this is what we use a magical wand for. So with your favorite magical wand, what you're actually doing, or the way I do it, is firstly you always, it's like a hand, it's a standard hand position for a prayer. Very common to begin like this in many rituals. But what I do is always visualize that I'm calling above for this energy. So this is where I believe the source of all energy is, whether it's on the astral plane or with a spirit that I'm trying to connect to. I'm calling to above, so I'm pointing it up. And as I'm thinking about this, what I'm thinking about is I'm directing the energy that exists all around us from the universes, and I'm bringing that down here to the earthly plane. And this is as above, so below. That's the way I interpret it in my symbolism. And then I will walk around in a circle clockwise to create this little magical space. And as I'm walking around, I'm actually creating a flame of energy. Depends on what type of ritual I'm doing. Most of the time it's a blue flame, so I'm picturing this electric blue flame that the end of my wand is projecting into the ground and casting this circle. And once that is basically cast, then that is it. I'll put my hands back together, just in thanks and gratitude, and then you just begin straight away, because that is what it's really done. You have to understand what you're doing, otherwise you're just waving your wand around anywhere, and it's just a piece of wood until you see it as that magical tool. You know, until you really get into the symbolism, then it's quite pointless in even trying to use it. So let me demonstrate, okay? So once again, I start, I just point it up above, bringing the energy down to below, and then quite simply, it doesn't have to be a large circle. I'm going to be walking around, visualizing the blue flame in this case, until the start of the circle again. And once I feel like that flame is now fully engulfed around me and I'm in my magical space, I put my hands back to prayer position again, and then I begin my ritual, whatever I'm doing. So that's just a little idea for you. If you have a question, I should also say, to conclude a ritual, if you want to do it properly, there's two ways you can do that. Generally, if I'm in a seated position, I will ground the energy just with my hands itself. I'm pushing all of that energy back into the earth. But in good practice, especially if you're in ritual, is that you will use the wand once again to go counterclockwise. and then you've opened back up the space again. So you will develop your own rituals based on your own systems and what you really feel like works for you. So how else can you use wands? Well, one way is you use them for spell casting. Now, you probably say, give me an example. Well, okay. Now, a while ago when I was living actually on Oahu in Hawaii, I shared a lot of videos and blog posts about how Blonde Gypsy at that time was sick and she was having head surgery, brain surgery. And it's a very serious time when somebody who is magical is having basically anesthetized and is completely open to potential spiritual attack. Now, it's not that Blonde Gypsy gets into situations where she's going to create enemies, but you know, probably a connection with me could put her under that influence. So I was very mindful of this. And so what I did as a spell, I created a puppet of her. Now this isn't it, but I'm just showing you an example. So I created a puppet of her. Of course, all her correspondences were on this. I baptized the doll. So it was true hoodoo style preparation of this, you know, sympathetic magic, if you will. I laid it down, and especially on the night of her operation, or the day of her operation, it was nighttime to me in the USA. She's in Australia. I surrounded her with a whole lot of crystals. Then using my healing wand, I charged it with the energy and until I felt it vibrating in my body, and then I released the power. All I had to do was touch her, and I touched her on the place that she was having the operation. So there's lots of, this isn't just picking up a stick and touching her. So in a spell, I'm in a seated position. I have charged myself. I'm calling down to the spirits for help for this situation. I might say an incantation. I might chant an N or a mantra. And once I'm feeling fully charged, I'm allowing this to go down into the wand, and I'm touching her to release all of that energy into the puppet. This is sympathetic magic. So the idea is that the puppet represents a target, and the target is going to feel exactly what I'm delivering. And that's it. I arrest the object. Of course, I always wrap all of my tools. They all go back into their own containers, and they're placed in their own little box. And I have a box for all my spiritual tools. But that is basically it. Now, just to let you know that at the end of this spell, you know, she recovered extremely fast from this operation. She can tell you the full story if you like. But I think her recovery time was, you know, she was out of the hospital like 4 times faster than what the doctors thought that she would be. And her recovery was absolutely amazing. Because I created a puppet of her, it was very important that I gave, well, she knew that I was doing it, but I gave her the option, do you want me to dispose of this, or do you want to dispose of it? I think that's very important to remember, because if you're creating a puppet of someone, you just don't want to be leaving this around. This is a very serious spiritual object, and you have to release it after the spell is done, even as cute as they are sometimes. So her puppet went back to her for her own disposal. Now, how else can you use a wand? Well, as you can see here, I have a cauldron, another very popular witch's tool that I'll be talking about in the coming weeks. But with a cauldron, using a wand. Now, this particular wand is a mahogany wand. Mahogany wands are probably the best wands to use when working with elemental style magical spells. So yeah, this would be a perfect tool for you to use if you're working with the elements a lot. Mahogany is also a very good tool to use when you're doing healing spells. So this would be a perfect little wand to do a healing spell with. It's quite light, it's quite feminine, as you can see. Very different vibe and feel than the ebony style wand. Actually, this wand isn't sold by us, it's made by Whirlwood Wands. I'll leave a link below. It's a beautiful wand. It has lots of gorgeous embellishments, but the energy here is much different. It's lighter. It's like it wants to work with you. It sounds wanky, but it feels magical. So it's a lovely light element. It's very, very feminine. So maybe this is a lovely energy for you to use. Now, I haven't used this one before, but it is one that I think I will start to use in my collection. Yeah, because it just feels really lovely. But let me show you what else you can use a wand for. So you could also use the wand to basically enchant various herbs that are in your cauldron before you make a potion. So say you wanted to make like a protection potion or something like that. And how would I use my wand when I was making this potion? Well, a basic sort of protection potion might look like, I always add eucalyptus leaves actually, but you can get eucalyptus here in the USA now too, if you're in the USA, but otherwise you would use bay leaves, cloves, caraway seeds, probably garlic. You can use powdered garlic if you like. You might want to use something like cumin, fennel seeds, rosemary. That's one of my favorite herbs to use. Nearly everything actually. And whatever other herb that you think is important for protection that maybe is around in your country, if you like. Basically what you're going to do is crush them into your cauldron. Now I'll give you two ways to do this actually. If you just want to do it more of the hoodoo style, you're just going to add a little bit of oil into the herb. If you want to do it more of a witchcraft style, you're going to put it's really putting it on the stove to boil. But if you've got a cauldron where you can add water to it and then add the herb and bring it to a boil, that is also a good way to do it. So I've given you two different variations there. But essentially what you're going to do when it's combined, what you'll do is actually draw a pentagram over the top of the steam and over the top of the mixture as it's boiling. So you're holding your wand, once again, ensuring that the energy is infused, so you're not just waving around a stick. You're holding your wand, and I'll give you an idea. Bubble, bubble, toil and trouble. Fire burn and cauldron bubble. A shield from harm forever be. To all thee touch, or who touch thee, so be it. Now I've only said that once, but if you were doing this, or if I'm doing this myself, I keep saying it. Now, if you were boiling it, doing the witchcraft method of preparing this, you're going to boil that for around 5 minutes. And after you finish, you'll strain it out and, of course, put that protection mixture into a glass jar. And there you have a very special, potent mixture that you created using your magic wand, the energy of your magic wand. Now, this wand is an ash wand, as you can see. It just looks like a plain old piece of wood. Now we sell these in our store looking like this, not as fancy as of course the wood makers make from Whirlwood wands. Ash is a beautiful wood for like purpose and wisdom. So when you think about those elements, thinking about what you want to achieve while using that wand, when you hold that in your hand and you're feeling the energy of that wand, what can I do with this type of energy? Now, a beautiful little ritual I read about was this ritual where you have a photograph of your family members where they're all together and you summon the energy from the wand, the wisdom from above, and you're asking for magical protection for each of your family members. So when you've adequately charged yourself, if you like, what you do is with the family photo, you like my family photo? So imagine here there's all your family. What you'll be doing using your wand is drawing this triangle on the head of each of your family members. Now this is on the crown chakra, and what you're doing with your wand is you're thinking about each of your family members being protected. You might say something like you hope the god or the goddess provides blessing to your family members, protecting their mind, body and spirit within the triangle that you have created above their head. So use some words that sort of make sense to you in your own language, whatever that is. This establishes a connection between them and the highest realms of the celestial plane. So this is such a beautiful way to use your wand on all your photos in your home, creating that visualization above each of your family members' heads and just providing another layer to the protection you can offer as a witch or a warlock or occultist in your home. Of course, there are other type of wands that I don't have an example of here. One of them is the crystal wands. Now, these are really popular with some of my other coven members. Lady Hannah, Blonde Gypsy, a lot of the other girls in the energy space, they love their crystal wands, especially for healing. I don't use that energy. I mean, I do have a quartz crystal in my healing wand, but crystal healing itself is something very different, and the using of the wand in that service I know is greatly beneficial, but I don't personally do that, so I haven't explained it to you. Other type of resin style wands, let me just show you that yes, we do have resin wands, and they're resin, they're plastic. So what I'll say about these, even though we do sell them at our Black Magic Witch store, they're plastic. So don't expect, these are basically the type of abracadabra wands that are just going to look good. Don't expect to feel a spiritual or an energetic connection using one of these wands, but I think they look fabulous on your little toolkit or in a little witchy box, I suppose. I just wanted to add that. So that's all I have to really share with you about magical wands. I really hope that I've inspired you to use this magical tool in some ways. I'd love to see photos of your magical wands. If you want to send it through to support@blackwitchcoven.com. We love to see your photos or hear your feedback on how you use your magical wand. I'm going to leave you with a concept and an idea too that I've shared not only with my senior coven members, but with my own daughter, who is also a witch. And in my will, I have willed my magical tools to those people if they so desire them. Now, if they're not ready to accept that magical tool, the energy of that tool, the idea is that the occultist or witch is to take that to the grave. What you do is that you put the tools in your receiving hand, which is in your right hand, and then when you pass away, of course, I want them laid across my chest, and they can go to the grave with me, and that's how I want to be buried. The only other thing I said about that is don't be putting any cross on my grave or I'll come back and haunt you. I definitely want a pentagram on my tombstone, so be it. But anyway, I think I've covered everything I want to share with you about the magical wand. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope that I've inspired you to use a wand in some way, and I'll leave you with some links to what I have spoken about. It's really very fascinating to learn all of the different aspects of the various types of woods. Hopefully you can find one, at least one, that you can bring into your magical toolkit and use. All right, blessings to everyone and catch you next time. Bye for now.